Srirupam Sadhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Pada Savinita Shri Shakhan Tamscha Namaste Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Krishna Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Ramne Namaste Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Yeah.
Device is
Right.
audio device calculated.
वो आ रहा है आवाज जा रही है दिखाते नहीं
Is it audible?
आवाज नहीं जाएगा ऑटोमेटिकली पत्रम पुष्पम फलम पर
Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, wherein Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Param Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Upahritam Asnami Prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. It is not that Krishna is hungry and is begging food from us. The purpose of this offering is to create a loving transaction. Krishna wants this transaction. You love me and I'll love you. As God, Krishna's energy creates and sustains everything. So why should he beg a leaf, a fruit, and a little water from us? He will be very pleased. However, if we offer him a piece of fruit, a leaf, and water with love, saying, Krishna, I am so poor that I cannot secure anything. I have secured this fruit and a leaf. Kindly accept them. Such an offering would make Krishna very glad. If he eats what we offer, our life will be successful. For we will actually make friends with Krishna. Fruit, flowers, and water can be secured practically in any part of the world by any man, poor or rich, and can be offered. We should remember then that it is not vegetarianism which is important, nor is it that God is in need of anything. The important point is that we simply have to try to learn how to love Krishna.
Yeah, so here Baldev Vidyavasan comments that Krishna is telling with love and devotion. The Prabhupada already has described it. However, it tells that he doesn't want others to offer him like they do offering to the devtas. They do not have the love and devotion. They just want something and then they go away. They get the benefit, then they go away. He doesn't want like this. He wants permanent relationship with the person who is offering him. That is why he is telling love and devotion. Not like the devtas, that just whatever is like given the scriptures you should do and you will get that, give and go. No. So that is why he wants love and devotion, to have the permanent eternal relationship.
Love begins with this give and take. We give something to our lover, he gives something to us, and in this way love develops. When we create any loving transaction with any boy or girl, man or woman, we give and take. Thus, Krishna is teaching us how to give and take. Krishna is begging us, try to love me, learn how to love me, offer something to me. Sir, we may say, I have nothing to give you. Oh, you cannot collect a piece of fruit, a flower, a leaf, or a little water? Oh, yes, why not? Anyone can collect this. This, then, is the method of Krishna consciousness, which allows one to make friends with Krishna. We can enter into any number of relationships with Krishna. We can become a direct servant of Krishna, or in the highest stages, we can become Krishna's father, mother, or lover. Krishna is prepared to establish a loving relationship with all living entities. In actuality, this relationship is already there because he is the Supreme Father and we are his parts and parcels. Because the Son is part of the body of the Father, the relationship between them cannot be broken. It may be forgotten for some time, but as soon as one recognizes his father or son, immediately affection develops. Similarly, we are eternally related to Krishna, but at the present moment, this relationship is simply forgotten or suppressed. Consequently, we think that we have no relationship with Krishna, but this is not a fact because we are integral with Him. Because we are part and parcel of Him, our relationship with Him is eternal. That relationship simply has to be revived, and that revival is this process of Krishna consciousness. At present, we are under the sway of our different consciousness. One person is thinking that he is Indian, another is thinking that he is American, and someone else is thinking, I am this or I am that. In this way, we create so many artificial identities. But our actual identity should be, I am Krishna's. When we think in this way, we are thinking in Krishna consciousness. Only in this way only in this way can universal love among all living entities be established.
So this paragraph actually from the two paragraph question number 16, and later it will come in the same paragraph, short question number 37. How by practicing Krishna consciousness we can establish a relationship with all living entities. So here Prabhupada has started explaining.
Krishna is related to everyone as eternal Father, and consequently, when we establish our Krishna conscious relationships, we become related to Him. When one marries, he automatically establishes a relationship with the spouse's family. Similarly, if we re-establish our original relationship with Krishna, we will establish our true relationship with everyone else.
So this will be the one example. Prabhupada is giving one example that Krishna is here, spouse family. He automatically establish relationship with the spouse family. Short question. Give an example given by Srila Prabhupada in this regard. This example can be given.
That is the ground for real universal love. Universal love is artificial and cannot endure unless we establish our relationship with the center. One is American if he is born in America, and thus other Americans become members of his family. But if he is born somewhere else, he has no relationship with Americans. On the mundane platform, all relationships are relative. Our relationship with Krishna, however, is eternal and not subject to time and circumstance. When we re-establish our relationship with Krishna, the questions of universal brotherhood, justice, peace, and prosperity will be answered. There is no possibility of realizing these higher ideals without Krishna. If the central point is missing, how can there be brotherhood and peace? In Bhagavad Gita, the peace formula is clearly given. We have to understand that Krishna is the only enjoyer. The consciousness of this is developed in a Krishna conscious temple, where the central point of all activities is Krishna. All cooking is carried on for Krishna, not for one's own purposes. Ultimately, we shall eat the prasadam, offered food. But when we cook, we should think that we are cooking for Krishna and not for ourselves. When the members of a temple go into the streets, they do not do so for their own sake, but to distribute Krishna conscious literatures in order to make people aware of Krishna's presence. All monies acquired are spent for Krishna in spreading his message in so many ways. Such a style of life in which everything is done for Krishna promotes the development of Krishna consciousness within the living entity. Our activities may remain the same. We simply have to understand that we are acting for Krishna and not for our personal satisfaction. In this way, we can come to our original consciousness and be happy. Unless one is established in his original consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness, he is certain to be crazy to some degree. Everyone who is not Krishna conscious is to be considered crazy because he exists on a platform which is temporary and transient. Since we, as living entities, are eternal, Temporary activities are not our concern. Our engagement should be eternal because we are eternal, and that eternal engagement is the rendering of service to Krishna in love. Krishna is the supreme eternal, and we are subordinate eternals. Krishna is the supreme living entity, and we are subordinate living entities. The finger is part and parcel of the total body, and its eternal function is to serve the body. Indeed, that is the very purpose for the finger, and if it cannot serve the whole body, it is diseased or useless. Similarly, as part and parcel, we have to serve Krishna and be subordinate to Him, because as the Supreme Father, He supplies all our necessities. Such a life of subordination to Krishna is a normal life and is a life of actual liberation. Those who try to deny Krishna and live outside of any relationship to Him are actually leading a sinful life. Sukhdev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit discussed this subject, and Parikshit Maharaj was anxious to know how the conditioned souls could be saved from their hellish lives. It is the natural desire of a Vaishnava to save suffering humanity. Generally, others do not care whether people suffer or not, but a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, is always thinking of how to alleviate the fallen condition of the people. Christians believe that through his crucifixion, Lord Jesus Christ assimilated all the sinful activities of the world's people. A devotee of the Lord is always thinking of how to assimilate the sufferings of others. A similar devotee was Vasudeva Datta, who was Lord Chaitanya's associate. He told the Lord, "Now that you have come, kindly deliver all people on this earth and take them to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. And if you think that they are so sinful that they cannot be delivered, please transfer all their sins unto me. I shall suffer for them."
Prabhupada clarifies this point in the next paragraph. Actually, everyone individually has to suffer for one's sinful activities. Okay. So these are the compassion of the Vaishnava devotees. But the Lord generally doesn't do like that. He will give all the sufferings to some devotees, those who are so much dear to him. Of course, for that he relies, because the devotee wants that other living entities should get relieved of those sufferings. So he relieves other living entities' sufferings, but he doesn't give the sufferings to some devotees like that. But actually, Prabhupada writes in that actually everyone is responsible for his own sinful activities or whatever activities. Yeah, continue.
This is a Vaishnava's mercy. However, it is not that Jesus Christ or Vasudeva Datta should make a contract for our sins and that we should go on committing them. For this is a most heinous proposal. A Vaishnava or a devotee may suffer for all humanity, but the human race or a particular devotee's disciple should not take advantage of this facility and continue to commit sins. One should rather realize that since Lord Jesus Christ or Vasudeva Datta suffered for him, he should stop committing sins. Actually, everyone is responsible for his own sinful activities. Therefore, Sukadev Goswami recommends Tasmat Puraivasva Iha Papa Niskritav. In order to free oneself from all the reactions of sinful activities, as long as one is embodied, he should atone. Yateta Mrityor Avipadya Tatmana Doshaya Drishtva Guru Lagavam Yatha Bishak Chikitseta Rujam Nidanavit. According to one's sinful activities, he should accept a program of atonement. As mentioned before, there are different atonements for different sinful activities. In any case, before death, one should perform atonement so that he does not carry sinful activities into his next life and have to suffer then. If some atonement for our sinful activities is not performed, nature will not excuse us. We will have to suffer the effects of our sins in the next life. Such bondage to one material activities is called karma bandhana. Yagyarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, Perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way, you will always remain unattached and free from bondage.
This
Not-
verse comes in 7th chapter also. There is a question, short answer. Which works bind one and which works free one from bondage? So it is given in the 7th chapter statement, but same slogan. It will be repeated there. So this is talked about like Niskam Karma Yoga actually. When you say working. So it's not because Niskam Karma Yoga is also told bhakti sometimes because it leads one to that point. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, even Baldev Vidya also clarifies that. Firstly, it leads to the proper jnana in which jnana is predominant and karma is less. And that also one does not do any activities for oneself because it is duty. So he thinks because it is duty given by Lord, provided in the scriptures, so we must do for the pleasure of the Lord because it is given by the Lord. That is Niskam Karma Yoga. And that leads to the jnana. Then he started differentiating between the matter and the spirit and all those things. And actually Bhakti Vinod Thakur actually tells that leads to the Bhagavad Jnana also. That for if I'm doing this for the pleasure of the Lord, then who is Lord? This leads to knowing the Bhagwan characteristics of the Lord, and then starts the proper Bhakti Yoga. That is why given. In 3rd chapter, it is coming 3rd chapter. 3rd chapter name is also like Karma Yoga. Wherever Prabhupada generally translates this as devotional service because the conclusion, the ultimate thing is that everything culminates into Bhakti Yoga. That is why Prabhupada translates those things in devotional service generally. And it is very difficult also not to perform action, just do the activities, specifically for people, those who are living now in this Kali Yuga. It is very difficult not to perform action. That is why, even though after discussing the Jnana Yoga and all those things, Krishna again in the 6th chapter discourages that one must perform action. He tells that. Firstly, in 4th, he discussed the Jnana Yoga and all that. Then again, he tells one must perform action. It is very difficult not to be situated in the Jnana Yoga and because I'm not doing this. So that is why it is very, Niskam Karma Yoga is far easier than to perform the Jnana Yoga. That is why it is told that do your activities, but for the pleasure of the Supreme and for the pleasure of yourself. And that kind of activities will not bind oneself in this material world. Okay, so continue. I think this will be very clear after Vidwan Gaurangpur's class on Niskam Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Okay, Bhakti Yoga. There are distinction. Technically, there are distinction. Yeah, Karma Yoga means Niskam. Sakam Karma means like generally it is called for karmis. Because they do not get the eternal benefit. Of course, if they have this desire that my enjoyment of my own sense that should go away, it will gradually go away, of course. Okay, continue.
One may kill an animal to enjoy eating it, but he will be bound by such an action. Thus, in one's next life, he will become a cow or a goat, and the cow or goat will become a man and eat him. This is the Vedic statement, and as with all Vedic statements, one may believe it or not. Unfortunately, at present, the people are educated.
Continue.
Fortunately, at present, people are educated in such a way that they do not believe in the next life. Indeed, it seems that the more educated one becomes, the less he believes in God, in God's law, or in the next life, and in sinful and pious activities. Thus, modern education is simply preparing men to become animals. If there is no education to teach a human being what he is and whether or not he is this body, he remains no better than an ash.
Life of animalism, the obvious questions, this can also be taken from this obvious.
An ash also thinks, I am this body, as do other animals. Thus, if a man thinks in the same way, how is he different from any other animal? Srimad Bhagavatam states, यस्यात्म बुद्धि कुनपे त्रिधातुके स्वाधि कलत्रादिषु भौम इजा इज्जति यत्तीर्थ बुद्धि सलिले न कर्हिचित् जानेषु अभिज्ञेषु स एव गोखरा. For one who accepts the body, which is made of three elements, as his self, who has an affinity for intimate bodily relationship with his wife and children, who considers his land worshipable and who accepts the waters of holy places of pilgrimage, but does not take advantage of the knowledge of the saintly persons there, is to be considered to be in illusion and no better than an ass or a cow. According to Ayurveda, the material body is composed of three elements: Kaf, Path, Kaf, Pitta, Vata, mucus, bile, and air. Within the body, there is a complex machinery which transforms food into liquid. There are so many complicated bodily processes going on, but what do we know of them? We say, "This is my body." But what do we know about this body? Some people even claim, "I am God," but they do not even know what is going on within their own bodies. The body is a bag of stool, urine, blood, and bones. If one believes that intelligence comes out of stool, urine, blood, and bones, he is a fool. Can we create intelligence by mixing stool, urine, bones, and blood? Nonetheless, people still think, "I am this body." Therefore, the scriptures say that whoever accepts this body as the self and accepts the bodily relations of wife, children, and family as his own, is illusion. The word Kalatra means wife and Adi means beginning. Because a man feels alone, he accepts a wife, and immediately there are children and then grandchildren. In this way, there is expansion. Sri means that which expands. So, Kalatradishu means expansion of the self. Beginning from the wife, the word Bhauma refers to the land of one's birth, which the ignorant consider worshipable, Ijjadi. People are willing to give up their lives for the land where they were born, but they do not know that land, body, wife, children, country, and society really have nothing to do with them. We are the spirit soul, Aham Brahmasmi. This is realization of knowledge. And when we come to this point of knowledge, we become happy. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Nakangshati Samah Sarveshu Bhuteshu Labhate Param. He who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires anything. He is equally disposed to all the living entities, and in that state, he achieves pure devotional service unto me.
So this in the last book also, and this both these two books, these verses came and explained also. This is for the when one attains this stage, the Jivan Mukta, then only one can perform the Nirgun Bhakti. Before that, it is not possible to perform Nirgun Bhakti, as has been explained by the Acharyas. That when one attains this stage, Jivan Mukta, then one starts performing Nirgun Bhakti. Otherwise, always for every single moment, one is in some mode. So it is not possible to perform. Either they will be performing those who are very much in the mode of goodness, good, then Satogun Bhakti. Different kinds of bhaktis are there. It has been described by Kapil Goni, Miss Kapil Dev in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti in Rajogun, Bhakti in Tamogun, Bhakti in Satogun, and Nirgun Bhakti. So after achieving this status, Brahma, then one can perform the Mad Bhakti Labhate Param, then you can perform Para Bhakti. Before that, it's not possible. Continue.
One immediately becomes jolly, Prasannatma, when he comes to understand, "I am spirit soul, I am Brahman, and I am this, I am not this matter." The sign of this joy is that no one, the sign of this joy is that one no longer feels hankering and lamentation. Within this world, everyone is subject to lamentation for that which is lost and hankering for that which must be gained. But real gain is to understand oneself and to know one's own identity. As long as we maintain the bodily conception of life, we have to abide by the laws of material nature as well as the laws of the state and all other laws. Thus, this body is called conditional because it is subject to different conditions. There are varieties of conditions, and regardless of the condition to which we are subjected, we are responsible. If we do not atone for sinful activities committed while in this body, we will have to suffer in the next body because we will get another body according to karma. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam yajati ante kalevaram. That is nature's law. Sukadeva Goswami therefore recommends that one undergo atonement according to the gravity of his sinful activities. One must follow the methods of atonement prescribed in the Shastras, otherwise there is no rescue.
अच्छे से पढ़िए सडनली किस मोड में चले जाते हैं कोमा में
स्पीड हो रहा था क्या?
नींद हो रहा है
One must follow the methods of atonement prescribed in the Shastras, otherwise there is no rescue. Parikshit Maharaj, who was very intelligent, said, by atonement, one can become free from sinful activity. But suppose a man has committed murder and then is killed. The sinful reaction of his murder is thus neutralized. But it is not guaranteed that in his next life he will not kill another man.
The question is paragraph question number 17. Same thing coming from an ODE. Why Maharaj Parikshit rejected the methods of atonement as a way to get rid of sins? How does Srila Prabhupada explain what's wrong with this method? What is the right method to get rid of sins? So paragraph question number 17 will be discussed in that. In the next paragraph, continues 2 paragraphs, and actually the 3rd paragraph also, the last paragraph also.
Thus, Parikshit Maharaj noted that after atoning, people commit the same sins again. If a man is diseased, the physician may give him medicine and cure him, but it does not guarantee that he will not be attacked again by the same disease. Venereal diseases are often contracted again and again, despite cures, and a thief may steal again and again, despite being repeatedly being thrown into jail. Why is this? Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj noted that although atonement may be a good for counteracting sinful activities already committed, it does not prevent those sins from being committed again. Everyone can see that a man who commits murder is punished, but seeing this is not enough to deter one from killing. In every scripture and in every law book, man is warned not to kill, yet no one is concerned with these laws. What is the remedy for this?
So for that, Bhagavatam 619, 610 is we discussed during NOI also. One is talking about the Nisheda, one is talking about the Vidhi. All those things is talked here. Yeah.
In every scripture and in every law book, man is warned not to kill. Yet, no one is concerned with these laws. What is the remedy for this? Drishta Srutabhyam Yat Papam. By practical experience and by hearing from authorities, everyone knows that sinful activity, everyone knows what sinful activity is, and no one can say, I do not know what sin is. What is the value of atonement if one commits the same sin again and again after atoning? Vachin nivartate abhadrat vachin charati tat punah prayashchitam vato apartham manye kunjara sauchavad Bhagavatam 6.1.9. When one is being punished, he thinks, what a mistake I have done.
Bhagavatam, here it is written Bhagavatam 1.910, but it is actually supposed to be 10. The book it is 910 by mistake.
6.1.10.
10.
When one is punished, he thinks, what a mistake I have made. I shall not commit this sin anymore. But as soon as he is out of danger, he again commits the same sin. Habit is second nature. It is very difficult to break. Swayadi priyate raja tat kim nasnati upanaham hitopadesha. One may seat a dog on a royal throne, but as soon as he sees a shoe, he will immediately jump down and run after it simply because he is a dog. The canine qualities are there, but they cannot be changed simply by putting the dog on a throne. Similarly, we have acquired material qualities by associating with the three modes of material nature, sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. And our habits are formed by association with these three qualities, which are the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. If, however, we disassociate ourselves from the three modes of material nature, our real spiritual nature is invoked. That is the process of Krishna consciousness. If one is Krishna conscious, there is no chance of his associating with the three modes of material nature. And when one is conscious of Krishna, one's spiritual nature is automatically invoked. That is the secret. Those who seriously follow the process of Krishna consciousness, though previously habituated to many undesirable things, are able to stay on a platform where there is no material contamination simply by virtue of practicing Krishna consciousness. Thus, Krishna consciousness is an excellent medicine. Unless one comes to awareness of Krishna, the habits he forms in association with the three modes of material nature will continue, and he will not be able to change them. If one actually wants freedom from the repetition of birth and death, he must come to Krishna consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Mam chayo abhya vicharena yogena sevate sagunan samadhitan brahma bhujaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
So here the Brahma Bhuta, how one can come even by performing bhakti itself, even in the modes, performing bhakti in the modes, but steady bhakti, if one performs even in the bhakti in the modes, but it should be full, means always, or a steady bhakti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells steady bhakti. Then one can come to the level of Brahman, and then one can perform the Shuddha Bhakti, Para Bhakti. Okay. No need to do anything else. Krishna himself is telling that one can come just by performing bhakti itself, steadily. One can come to the level of Brahman, and then one can perform the Para Bhakti. It does not fall down. Actually, it does not fall down means he just, even if one is performing bhakti in Rajogun Bhakti, he will gradually actually elevate himself. He will go into the performing Satogun Bhakti, and then he will go into the performing Nirguna Bhakti. It does not fall down here. If he is steadily performing, he will gradually elevate himself. So in that situation can be considered like even those like for karma yogis or jnana yogis. Generally jnana yogis are considered like a sort of performing bhakti because they are in every yoga. There must be components of bhakti. So generally they are considered sort of like performing bhakti in the mode of goodness, or even the Ashtanga yogis also. So because in the 6th chapter itself, when Krishna is talking about Dhyana Yoga, in the last chapter, it tells who is the topmost yogi, who is continuously meditating on my form in his heart, something like that it tells. Then he is the topmost yogi. So it's sort of bhakti only. Dhyan means he is seeing the form of the Lord. So gradually he will elevate and he will do only the bhakti, para bhakti. It's like that. That is why he is topmost yogi.
Your Krishna consciousness process does not recommend this atonement or that atonement. One can go on experimenting by atoning, but the disease of the soul will remain unless one comes to the platform of rendering devotional service in love and purifying his life.
So, Prabhupada gives this verse for this also. Even those who leave that, who are not even the Niskam Karma Yogi, even those who have committed some sinful activity, for them also this is the merit. Perform steadily full bhakti, full devotional service. For them also this is the medicine. not just for them who are like want to gradually come from performing bhakti in Rajogun, Satogun and come to no. For them also this is the medicine. For everyone this is the medicine. Bhakti, steady bhakti is medicine for everyone. Even those who are performing sinful activity. And Prabhupada himself has shown that when he went to America and almost 99.9% person who came to Prabhupada were like extremely sinful. Even we cannot even imagine how sinful they were. But by performing steadily bhakti following Prabhupada, they have elevated themselves. So this is the proof in this verse.
Full devotion is told about the 9 wings of bhakti or Vrindavan Ashram also is included, like who engage in full devotion service.
That is a full devotion service is steadily. Most of the parts would be in that 9, that Kevala Bhakti parts. But still, one has to, because unless one comes to the Nirgun Bhakti part, one has to perform one's Varnashram duties and everything. But that also for the pleasure of the God. It should be done for the pleasure of the God. There is generally like Bhakti, Vishnu Chakravarti himself tells that it means that of which Arena means for most of the days, we should be engaged in the proper bhakti items.
So that is most of them.
We should be engaged in those things. Because as long as one is in the mode, because thus comes to the level of Brahman. It means he has not come to the level of Brahman. He is in some modes. Then he has to perform activities. I mean to say that his karma according to one's guna, and one according to one's one has to perform karma also. Because he has not come to this Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, the Sochatina Kancha. So he has to perform. Yes, next.
Learning tapasya, self-control. If one does not come to Krishna consciousness, he may be relieved for the time being from the reactions of sinful activities, but he will again commit transgressions. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj said, Vachinnivartate bhadra vachik charati tat punaha prayishchittam atho partham. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.10. Repeating sinning and atoning seem to me like nothing but a waste of time. He gave the example of an elephant which cleanses his body thoroughly in a lake or reservoir, but as soon as he comes onto shore, he takes dust and throws it all over his body and immediately becomes dirty again. Thus, Parikshit Maharaj said that although one may cleanse himself in the process of atonement, if he again commits the same sinful act, what is the use? Therefore, the second question put by Parikshit Maharaj to Shukadeva Goswami is very important. How can one ultimately become free from all contamination brought about by the material modes of nature? One cannot achieve liberation. What is the use of atonement?
Wait, and here what we were discussing, that what even Varnashram. So Bhakti Yogena, whenever it has been discussed in the scriptures, Bhakti Yogena, that means the nine. So performing for most of the time. It's not that always, for most of the time. Is steadily and every day for most of the time. Then he just comes to the level of Brahman. Because before coming to the level of Brahman, one is in the some modes, particular modes. So one will be, whatever he will be doing, like according to being in the modes, according to guna, he has to perform the karma also. So karma means, when I am telling karma, means those who are in the much in the mode of goodness, he will be performing the activities of the jnana. For them also, jnana karma. For that. So he has to perform. But for most of the time, bhakti yoga, he has to engage in the bhakti yoga, proper bhakti yoga.
In answer, Shukadeva Goswami said that merely counteracting karma, fruitive activities, by other activities cannot bring one's misery to a final end. For example, the United Nations is attempting to establish peace in the world, but they cannot stop war. War breaks out again and again. After the First World War, statesmen and diplomats manufactured the League of Nations. Then the Second World War came, and now they have revived the United Nations, but war is still going on. The actual goal is to stop war, but that cannot be done. By one action, war is created, and by another action, war is stopped for the time being. But again, at the next opportunity, there is another war. The cycle of sinful activities and atonement is like this. What we actually want is to be free from suffering and war, but that does not happen.
Very easily compare war and atonement, so that people can understand. In this Well, everybody always thinks some war is going on always. Easily can understand. That atonement is also like that. Even if one wants for some time, it will stop. Then again, it will come. Atonement is like that only. It will not punished for some activity, but tendency will never go. Just by doing atonement. Then again, one in the cycle of the simple activity that has been explained during NOD also. Bija, Kuta, Prarabdha, all those things will again start. Continue, please.
Sukadeva Goswami said that one kind of war causes a disturbance and another kind of war stops it for some time. But that is not the ultimate solution to the problem. Sukadeva states that these troubles happen due to ignorance. Avidvad adhikaritvat. Avidvat means lack of knowledge. Avidvat adhikaritvat prayaschittam vimarshanam. Real atonement is performed in knowledge. Why is there fighting and why are there miseries? Unless these why questions, which in the Vedas are called Kena Upanishad, arise in one's mind, one is not fulfilling the proper function of his human life. These questions must arise. Why am I suffering? Where from have I come? What is my constitutional position? Where shall I go after death? Why am I put into a miserable form of life? Why are there birth, death, old age, and disease? How can these questions be solved? Sukadeva Goswami says, Nashnataha patyam evannam vyadhayo bhavantihi evam niyam krid rajan shnahe chemaya kalpate. Shandharkam 6.1.12. If one wants to actually stop diseased life, he must follow a regulatory principle. If a person does not follow the program given by a physician to cure his disease, he cannot be cured. Similarly, if one does not think or act wisely as Vedic knowledge prescribes, how can he stop the problems of life? Simply by atonement, there may be a temporary suppression of difficulties, but they will arise again. Sukadeva Goswami says that in material or sinful life, we act in a way in which we are forced to commit sins and suffer as a result. This is so. And if we want to stop this cycle of suffering and victimization, we have to advance in knowledge. Ordinary people or karmis are furtive actors who work all day and night to get some enjoyable results and then again suffer. Thus, the problems of such karmis are never solved. It is suggested, therefore, that one elevate himself to the platform of knowledge as prescribed in Srimad Bhagavatam. The first necessity is tapasya.
So, two questions here. Paragraph question number 18 first. Explain the necessity of tapasya in spiritual life. What kinds of tapasya are there in Krishna consciousness? So it will be described here also, and in the next chapter also something comes about that. And what is the meaning of tapasya? Sort of answer question number 38 will also come just after this line itself.
If a doctor advises a diabetic patient not to eat but to starve for some days, although no one likes to starve, the patient must voluntarily accept starvation if he wants to be cured. This is tapasya, voluntary acceptance of a miserable condition.
So this is question number 38 answer. What is the meaning of tapasya?
The ability to do this is good, and human life is meant for that purpose. Indeed, Vedic culture prescribes tapasya, and one can see many tapasvis undergoing austerities in India. In the winter, they stand in water up to their necks and meditate. Standing in water during severe cold is not very comfortable, but they voluntarily do it. In the summer, they also ignite fires all around themselves and sit down in the midst of the blaze and meditate. These are examples of severe tapasya undertaken by many ascetics in India. Some tapasya is certainly required. Without it, one cannot advance in spiritual life or knowledge. If we simply engage in the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, not accepting the tapasya process, human life is a failure. If one wants to become an initiated member of our Krishna consciousness society, we first of all ask him to undergo tapasya. In the Western countries, especially, it is a great tapasya to give up illicit sex life, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling.
So what kinds of tapasya are there in Krishna consciousness? Then the paragraph question itself. In the 2-3, what explain the necessity of tapasya in spiritual life? What kinds of tapasya are there in Krishna consciousness? This
Although we require only these austerities, it is very difficult to observe them. In England, a wealthy aristocrat inquired from a Vaishnava god brother, Swamiji, can you make me a Brahmana? The Swamiji replied, yes, why not? You just have to observe these four principles: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Impossible. The Britisher replied, yes, it is impossible. For in Europe or in America, self-indulgence is the way of life from the very beginning. Indian gentlemen often come to the West to learn these indulgences, and they think themselves to be thus advancing. Indians are automatically taught the tapasya through their Vedic culture, but they come to America to forget that culture and accept another type of life. The real fact is, however, that if one wants to advance in spiritual understanding and solve all the problems of life, we must accept this life of tapasya, austerity, and restriction.
Prabhupada is telling one of the god brother was asked by one of the British gentlemen. He's talking about the Bona Maharaj. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur firstly sent him to preach in the England, to preach London. Maharaj went there and like he saw these problems. So he came back with it, told that it is impossible to preach in the West. Whenever I tell them to follow all those things, they just tell it is impossible to follow by us. So it is not possible to preach in the West. Then Maharaj came back that time.
Restriction is for human beings, not for animals. We encounter restrictions daily in our common dealings. We cannot drive a car on the left or run in a red light without risking apprehension by the law. If a dog, however, walks on the left side of the street or crosses against a red light, it is not punished because it is an animal. The law therefore makes distinctions between human beings and animals because human beings supposedly have advanced consciousness. If we do not follow the rules and regulations, we again lapse into animalism.
This also can be taken for the OVA, what is wrong in life of that animal. Just if somebody wants to write, we can be taken.
Currently, propaganda is being made celebrating freedom as opposed to a regulated life, but one who sees things as they are can understand that freedom from all restriction is animal life. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends tapasya. If we want actual freedom from the problems of life, we have to accept a life of austerity. Bondage to material life is the only other alternative. What is tapasya? What is austerity? The first principle of austerity is brahmacharya, restricted sex life. The real meaning of brahmacharya is complete celibacy. And according to Vedic culture, in the beginning of life, one should strictly follow the regulations of brahmacharya. When he is grown up, the brahmachari can marry and become grihastha. And as a grihastha, he can have sex. But in the brahmacharya life, strict celibacy is the rule.
Strict celibacy is all the Astanga Vaidhana. Completely. Divide up all those.
In the present age, people have become degraded for want of tapasya because they are not taught how to execute tapasya life. Criticism for its own sake will not do. One must be effectively trained in the life of tapasya. In the Vedas, it is said that those who execute a regulated life of tapasya are brahmanas. Etad aksharam gargi viditvasmal lokat praitis brahmanah. Etad aksharam gargi aviditvasmal lokat praitis kripanah. Everyone is dying, for no one can live here permanently. But one who dies after executing a life of tapasya is a brahmana, and one who dies like a cat or dog without executing tapasya is called a kripana. These two words are used frequently in Vedic literature, brahmana and kripana. Kripana means miser, and brahmana refers to a liberal, broad-minded person. Brahma janatiti brahmana. One who knows the supreme, the absolute truth is a brahmana, but one who does not know is an animal. This is the difference between animal and man. Man, to deserve the name, must be educated to understand the absolute truth. Because human life is meant for knowledge, there are schools and colleges, philosophers and scientists and mathematicians. The process of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending need not to be taught, for they are learned instinctively. Human life is obviously meant for more. It is meant for tapasya and knowledge. There are descriptions in the Vedas of brahmacharya, celibacy, which characterize the beginning of a life dedicated to tapasya. Maranam Kirtanam Kelihi Prekshanam Guhya Bhasanam Sankalpodhya Vashaya Ayasya Priya Nirvitti Evacha Sridhara 6.1.12.
Sridhar Swami has given in commentary 6.1.12 that these are the Smranam by remembering something, by talking about the sex life, by sporting means like being with a woman and doing some kind of activities. Prakshanam, artificial means Guya Bhashanam, having this confidential matters, how to have the sex sankalpa, take the determination to have sex, and then Adde Vashayas, and then arranging all those things and kriya and everything, and then actually performing. So all those things comes under the sexual life only. Astanga. So that is why Sridhar Swami has quoted this in his commentary in Srimad Bhagavatam.
When engages in any one of these, like you
Yeah.
are breaking that one regulative principle.
Yes.
To properly execute celibacy, one should not even think or even talk of sex life. Reading modern literature and newspapers which are filled with sexual material is also against the principles of brahmacharya.
So Prabhupada himself is told, reading the modern literature newspapers are against the principles of brahmacharya. That is also illicit sex life only. We are reading newspapers and
Similarly, indulging in sex in any way, looking at and whispering with girls, and determining or endeavoring to engage in sex life are all against the principles of brahmacharya. One executes real brahmacharya when all these activities come to a halt. Austerity, celibacy, and control of mind.
this is CVA question number 39 also, I forgot. What are the activities against the principles of brahmacharya? So these are the activities against this. These all 8 are against the principles of brahmacharya.
Austerity, celibacy, and control of the mind and senses one can advance in pure life. Similarly, advancement can be made through charity properly directed. That is called tyaga, renunciation. If one has $1 million, he should not keep it, but as long as it is within his jurisdiction, he should spend it for Krishna. Money or energy is properly utilized when it is directed to Krishna. As soon as one quits his body, all his monetary resources and everything else that he has collected in connection with his body is finished. For the spirit soul transmigrates to another body, and one does not know where the money which he earned in his previous body is being kept or how it is being spent. A person may leave the world declaring how the money should be spent by his sons or heirs, but even if one leaves millions of dollars in his next life, he has no claim to it. Therefore, as long as it is in one's hand, it is better to spend it for a good purpose. If one spends it for bad purposes, he becomes entangled. But if he spends it for good purposes, he gets good in return. This is very clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita explains that there are 3 kinds of charity: charity in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. A person in the mode of goodness knows where charity should be given. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says,
This has been explained in all those things, I think in 18th chapter only. Australian mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Charity in the mode of passion, goodness, passion, ignorance. There's so many things. Food in mode of passion, goodness, passion, ignorance. All those things are in the 18th chapter.
Om sarvabhutesu namadvishwasya na priyaha ye bhajanti tamam bhaktya mayi devesu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Bhagavad Gita 9.29.
Baladev explains here all these things because he is actually not partial to anyone. And if it seems like that he is partial to the devotee, he is actually not partial because he tells that devotees is in him, they are in me. So he is like his part, his bodily parts. So if he is favoring his body parts, it does not mean that he is partial to anyone. He is giving, means whatever the resource and whatever is giving. If one is nourishing one's body, it does not mean that he is partial to others because he is nourishing one's body. He is not caring for, I should do something for some other person or not. So he is not partial because it means that he is in me. He is in me means like he is my very much dear to me. He is like my body itself. And another meaning Bhakti Vinod Thakur gives like this, because he is not partial to anyone. It means that whoever behaves with him in whatever capacity, he also behaves like that. So it is not partiality. Somebody is very favorable for him, he is favorable to him. Somebody is hostile to him, he is hostile to him. So he is not partial actually. In that meaning also it can be taken.
Krishna is not in want of money, for he is the original proprietor of everything. Ishavasam idam sarvam, eko mantra one. But still he asks for us for charity. For example, Krishna in the guise of a god went to beg from Bali Maharaj, even though he is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, Bhagavad Gita 5.29, proprietor of all the planets. He nevertheless says, he is giving charity to me. Why? It is for our interest. For the sooner we return Krishna's money to Krishna, the better situated we will be. Of course, this may not be very pleasant to hear, but actually we are all thieves, or we have stolen God's property. If one who has something is not God's, it is to be understood that he has stolen God's property. That is the nature of material life. If this is considered thoughtfully, and if one comes to real knowledge, he will realize that if we do not understand God, whose property we are using, whatever we possess is stolen property. It is also stated in Bhagavad Gita, if one does not spend his money for yajna, sacrifice, he is understood to be a thief. Yo bhumte stena eva saha.
Where it is explained that if one does not perform yajna for demigods, is like is a thief. But Prabhupada very wonderfully clarifies that those who are in the Krishna consciousness are in performing Sankirtan yajna. So they are directly, because from the demigods are like just the appointed servants of the Lord. So they are responsible for the Lord. So if someone is directly serving the Lord, or directly performing the yajna for the Supreme Person, then of course he is not a thief. But those who are not serving the Supreme Person and not performing any kinds of yajna for the demigods, they are certainly thieves.
For instance, if one earns a great deal of money but tries to hide it to avoid paying income tax, the government considers him to be a criminal. He cannot say, I have earned this money, why shall I pay tax to the government? No, he must pay or risk punishment. Similarly, in the higher sense, everything we have is Krishna's or God's, and it must be utilized in accordance with his desires. We may wish to construct a building, but where do we get the stone, wood, and earth that the construction requires? We cannot artificially produce the wood, it is God's property. We cannot produce the metal, we must take it from the mine, which is also God's property. The earth and the bricks which are made from it are also God's. We simply give our labor, but that labor is also God's property. We work with our hands, but they are not our hands, but God's. Or when the power to use the hand is withdrawn by God, the hand becomes useless. We should use this great opportunity in human life to understand all these points which are mentioned in the authoritative books of Vedic knowledge like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami declares that real atonement necessitates thoughtfulness, sobriety, and meditation. One must consider whether he is the body or whether he is transcendental to the body, and one must try to know what God is. These ideas are to be studied in Krishna consciousness. This should not be frivolous or waste time. If one wants this knowledge, he has to practice austerity, tapasya, and the beginning of tapasya, as already explained, is brahmacharya, celibacy, or restricted sex life. The pivot of material attraction is sex, not only for human society, but for animal society also. Sparrows and pigeons have sex 300 times daily, although they are strict vegetarians, and the lion, which is not a vegetarian, has sex once a year. Spiritual life is not a question of vegetarianism, but of understanding higher knowledge. When one comes to the platform of elevated knowledge, he naturally becomes a vegetarian. Panditaha samadarshinaha. One who is very highly learned does not distinguish between a learned scholar, a brahmana, an elephant, a dog, and a cow. He is samadarshi. His vision enables him to see them all equally. How is this? He does not see the body, but the soul, the spiritual spark, Brahman. He thinks, here is a dog, but it is also a living entity. Although by his past karma he has become a dog. And this learned scholar is also a living spark, but he has taken good birth because of his past karma. When one comes to that position, he does not see the body, but the spiritual spark, and he does not distinguish between one living entity and another. Actually, we do not make distinctions between carnivorous and vegetarians. For the grass has life just as the cow or the lamb. A guideline, however, should be the Vedic instruction given in each Upanishad.
This is one of the analogy, I think. Actually, we do not make distinction in carnivores. For the grass has the life just as the cow or the lamb.
ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत्तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जिथा माध्विदः कृष्णस्य सिद्धनम्. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by God, by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong.
This Upanishad is part of Sukla Yajurveda, and this means for chapter number 41, and that this has been spoken by. This is a prayer by Swambhu Manu to the Yajna, one of the incarnations, son of Akuti, one of the incarnation of the Supreme Person. In the age of Treta, the Yajna Purush, who appears in all the Yajna, the Yuga Avatar, the Yajna is the Yuga Avatar in the Treta Yuga. So Swambhu Manu is praying these verses to him, the son of Akuti.
Since everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, one can only enjoy what is allotted to him by the Lord, and one cannot touch another's property. According to Vedic life and according to all Vedic scriptures, a man should live on fruits and vegetables, for his teeth are made in such a way that these can be very easily eaten and digested.
Baldev Devosan is translation, he writes like this. Even if one will steal somebody else, one cannot. One will have to enjoy one's karma only. So one should be very careful that one should do only that is required for him. Even if his karma is like that, he will be given a lot of things. But he should be very careful. Voluntarily one should take this austerity to use only those things which is required for him. And expanding on that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives in the translation itself, that is why one should practice the process of renunciation. And that will help him in his next life, in this lifetime also, in the next lifetime. Because nobody, if one has good karma, he may get many things, even though it is not required for him, but he will get in abundance. But he should renounce those things. Okay. So that is what it is till Isavasimdam Sarvam, Yatkinchin Jagatyam Jagat, Tena Tena Vunjita Margatam, Kashyat Siddhanam. So one should think that it is not required for me, so it is somebody else. I should not use that. Only which is required for me, I should use only those things. When it is which are set aside his quota, there might be this quota according to his karma or more. No, but he should use only as much as is required, not more than that. Yes.
Baldev Devosan, he has also given commentary on Isha Princess.
Yeah. Baldev Devosan, Madhvacharya, Vedantesika. This Vedantesika is the disciple of Ramanujacharya. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Since everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, one can only enjoy.
Jeev Goswami also has given the commentary on this.
Since everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, one can only enjoy what is allotted to him by the Lord, and one cannot touch another's property. According to Vedic life and according to all Vedic scriptures, a man should live on fruits and vegetables, for his teeth are made in such a way that these can be very easily eaten and digested. Although it is nature's law that one has to live by eating other living entities, Jiva Jivasya Jivanam, one must use discretion. Fruits, flowers, vegetables, rice, grain, and milk are made for human beings. Milk, for example, is an animal product, the blood of an animal transformed, but the cow delivers more milk than is needed by her calf because milk is intended for man.
Question number, CV question number 40. What is the milk is animal product, transformation of the blood of an animal cow. Then why Vedas recommends milk for men? So from here it is because cow gives more milk. How much the calf can drink. And if it does not happen, if one does not take out the milk from the milk bag of the cow's breast, then it actually tears down and it becomes problematic for the cows. one of my friend was telling that he has cow at his home, and once they did not take the milk out from the milk bag, and when the cow sat down, it got teared, and the milk as well as the blood were coming out. And so those so-called vegans, so they said one need not to take the milk out from the milk bag of the cows or anything else. They are just like police persons. They're like just like the non-vegetarians. They are also like the same thing. They do not know if one will not take the milk out of the milk bag of the cow, because calf cannot drink that much milk. So it will be problematic for the cows only. Not for they tell that cow is not giving milk for you, what you are doing, why you are taking milk. And so they are also like police person only. It will be problematic for cows only. They think that they are saving cows and other animals by being vegan. This is just foolishness.
Man should simply take the milk and let the cows live. Thus, following nature's law, man will be happy. Tena tektena bhujitha, Isho mantravan. One should take whatever God allows to him and thus live comfortably. We have to elevate our consciousness through this science of living. Deity is within everyone's heart, but we do not know how to make the best use of it. Whatever we spend in terms of energy should be for Krishna, for it all belongs to him. As spending for Krishna, one will not be a loser. Krishna is so kind that when we offer him food, he accepts and yet leaves everything for us to eat. Simply by offering food to Krishna, we can become devotees. We did not spend an extra farthing. In the higher sense, everything belongs to Krishna, but if we offer everything to Krishna, we will be elevated. This is a sublime and proven way for advancement in pure life.
Fourth chapter number 5.
With the consciousness. When one reaches the topmost position of material opulence, the tendency for renunciation is natural. There are two tendencies in this material world: bhog, sense enjoyment, and tyag, renunciation of this material world. Without guidance, however, one does not know how to renounce. First of all, one wants to enjoy, and when he is frustrated in enjoyment, he renounces. Again, when he tired of renunciation, he enjoys, like a clock pendulum which swings from side to side. We are thus all vacillating from the platform of enjoyment to the platform of renunciation and back again.
This is preface of your NOD, I think, Chapal Sutta has given there. Yes, of NOD.
Karmis, fruity workers, try to enjoy this world and reap the fruits of it. Consequently, they are constantly traveling on expressways all day and night to engage in material enjoyment. On the other hand, there are others, predominantly the discontented youth, who don't want any part of this. Thus, the world contains those engaged in bhog and those engaged in tyag.
What is talking about here, hippies that time. Their fathers were very rich person, wealthy person, but their sons did not want to enjoy. They are like, but they are in their own way. They are like giving up on those things, doing all those nonsense activities, having the reels, charas, ganja, and all those LSD and all those things. So they are thinking that they are giving up all those things.
However, we will not be happy by following either of these paths because it is not our proper position to either enjoy or renounce.
This is short question number 41. Why it is not proper position to either enjoy or renounce? Because we will not be happy.
Since everything belongs to Krishna and nothing belongs to anyone else, whatever we possess is actually Krishna's property. Isavashyamidam sarvam. Since we have not produced the trees, plants, water, or the lands, we cannot claim them. Since we actually have nothing, we can renounce nothing. Or as it is said, naked we come into this world and naked we go out. In the interim, we falsely claim, this is my country, this is my home, this is my wife, these are my children, this is my property, this is my bank balance, etc. Such claims are false because when we come into the world, we come in empty-handed, and when we go out empty-handed. What then is the meaning of bhoga and tyag? In the light of the actual facts, they have no actual meaning. Bhoga is thievery and tyag, renunciation of what never belonged to us, is a form of lunacy. In this regard, Krishna gives us his direction, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Vraja. Although we have created different types of religion based on bhoga and tyag, we are thus advised to give up all of them and surrender unto Krishna. It is not within our power to enjoy or to renounce. When renunciation is recommended in Bhagavad Gita, it refers to renunciation of everything that we falsely claim to possess. A child may take $100 bill from his father and try to keep it, although he may not know how to use it. The father may beg the child, "Dear boy, kindly give it to me." The child does not know that the money actually belongs to the father, nor does he know that he has best handed it to his father, for he simply does not know how to use it. Similarly, Krishna says, "Renounce your work for me, renounce your wealth and property for me." Krishna is not a beggar, for everything belongs to him, but he does treat us like small children. Compliance to his request to give everything to him is called tyag, renunciation, and is one of the means by which one can attain elevation to Krishna consciousness. Austerity, celibacy, equanimity, and charity are all required for realization of the ultimate or absolute truth. Krishna consciousness is not concerned with the relative truth, but with the absolute. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva offers his obeisances to the supreme absolute truth, Satyam Param Dhimahi. He offers his respect not to the relative categorical truths, but to the Saman Manam, the absolute truth. It is the duty of Brahmanas to practice those qualities by which the absolute truth can be realized. Brahmanas must be qualified by practicing cleanliness, truthfulness, control of the mind and the senses, simplicity, and by cultivating faith in the Vedas and particularly in the Bhagavad Gita.
The sloka in Bhagavad Gita. And this is one of the third question also. Question number 42. Brahmanas must be qualified by practicing what? These are the things. Cleanness, truthfulness, controlling mind, senses.
Krishna says, "I am the Supreme Lord." We have to accept him with faith, not foolishly, but with knowledge, and practically apply this acceptance in our daily life. A Brahmana is not created by birth, by education, practice, and knowledge. There is not a question of birth, but quality, as pointed out by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Katur varnayam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagsah tasya kartaram atima vidya kartaram avayam. According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. One must not only have the qualities of a Brahmana, but one should also work as a Brahmana, for one's qualities are tested by his work. If one is a qualified engineer but simply sits down at home and does not work, what is his value? Similarly, unless one works as a Brahmana, there is no value to his simply saying, "I am a Brahmana." One must therefore work as a Brahmana by fully engaging in the service of Param Brahman, Krishna, Supreme Brahman.
So the guna karma, both should be. It's not just the guna, not just the samagama tapasvacham shanti rajvam vichar. Not just that. Patan, Patan, Dan, Pratidan, Yajan, all those things should be there. Then only one can be called Brahman. Both should be there. If somebody is just doing Patan and he does not have all the Samadhama Tapasvacham, he will also not be considered a Brahman. And if somebody has the that Samadhama Tapasvacham, he is not doing the karma of the Brahmana, he will also not be called the Brahman. Okay. So both should be there. Then only one can be called Brahman or Kshatriya. Both. Intersection. Not sorry. Intersection. Yeah, intersection. Both should be there. Yes.
How can services of absolute truth be executed? Yamena, niyamena cha. Practice of yoga or linking with the Supreme is based on the principles of regulation and control. Revelation cannot be executed without control. Therefore, one must be thoughtful and purify himself. If one wants to pass an examination, he has to go to school, follow the principles of the school, and take some pains in his study, and then gradually he comes to be successful. If he plays all day on the street, how can he expect success? Therefore, in the process being explained by Sukdev Goswami, the first necessity is tapasya, austerity.
So this word can we use inside this paragraph. The first part of the 18th, in the last chapter also it came. And this also can be used for the first part of that, explain the necessity of tapasya in spiritual life.
Even if austerity and brahmacharya are painful because we want to be unrestricted, as soon as we are regulated, what appear to be painful is in practice not painful. There are two classes of men, those who are sober, dhira, and those who are extravagant, adhira. When one, in spite of provocation or in spite of presence of a source of mental agitation, can remain steady in his position, he is called dhira. An example of a dhira is given by Kalidas Pandit, a great Sanskrit poet who wrote a book called Kumara Sambhava, wherein he has given an example concerning Lord Shiva. It appears that when the demigods were fighting the demons and were being defeated, they decided that they could be saved by a commander-in-chief born from the stamina of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, however, was in meditation. To acquire the needed stamina was very difficult. They therefore sent Parvati, a young girl, who appeared before Lord Shiva and worshipped his genitals. Although this young girl sat before Lord Shiva and touched his genitals, Lord Shiva was steady in meditation. Kalidas says, here is an example of a dhira, for despite a young girl touching his genitals, he was undisturbed. Similarly, someone sent a young prostitute to disturb Haridas Thakur, and upon hearing her appeals for intercourse, Haridas Thakur said, yes, your proposal is very nice. Please sit down and let me finish my chanting, and then we shall enjoy. Morning came, and the prostitute became impatient. But Haridas Thakur replied, I am very sorry, I could not finish my chanting. Come tonight again. The prostitute came for 3 nights, and on the 3rd night she fell down at the feet, confessed her intentions, and pleaded with him. I was induced to perform this act by a man who is your enemy. Kindly excuse me. Haridas Thakur then replied, I know all about that, but I allowed you to come here for 3 days so that you could be converted and become a devotee. Now take these chanting beads and go on chanting. I am leaving this place. Here is another example of a dhira who has control of his body, their word, vacha, and intelligence, buddhi.
I forgot her name, but she donated all this property, whatever she earned, and then staying only in one kuti with the Tulsi Maharani in front of her. She was always chanting like Haridas Thakur, always, always chanting like Haridas Thakur.
His body, words, and intelligence should be controlled by one who is here and who actually knows the principles of religion. We have been continuously committing sinful activities since time immemorial, and we do not know when this began. But this life is meant for a rectification of all the mistakes that we have committed. If one sets fire to unwanted grass and creepers in a field, they will all be burned. Similarly, by the process of austerity and penance, one can liquidate all sinful activities and become purified. But Sukdev Goswami suggests an alternate process. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agam dhanvanti kartsena niharam iva bhaskaraha. Generally, if one
Prabhupada has not given, so generally he either gives translates also, but here he does not give, he just starts with something else. Okay, he gives, but it's Kevalya Bhakti. Sukdev Goswami gives another process. What? Though they are rare persons who have committed some sinful activities and then for the process of atonement, they're rare persons, but those who takes Kevalya Bhakti, unalloyed devotional service, he can uproot the weeds, even not just uproot the desired weeds also. Along with that, whatever comes, can uproot all those things if he takes Kevalya Bhakti. If he takes Bhakti along with all those things, he can uproot the roots if he doesn't take the process of atonement, he can uproot the root of that, but the weeds that comes along with that will be very difficult to get out of. So, but if one takes Kevala Bhakti, though they are very rare, you can uproot everything, even the weeds also. The roots and the weeds that comes with that, you can uproot all those things.
Generally, if one leads an austere and pious life of celibacy, equanimity, charity, etc., people will say that he is a very pious man. But simply by becoming Krishna conscious, one can kill all the resultant actions of past sinful life.
Krishna consciousness means fully Krishna consciousness, unalloyed Krishna consciousness. Not because in NOD also Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explained in that same verse that there was that in devotees all the good qualities will come. Only those who exclusively perform only bhakti, nothing else. All those good qualities automatically come. So exclusively, becoming exclusively Krishna conscious.
The fog disappears as soon as the sun rises. Krishna rises with the brilliance of thousands of suns.
So this is actually the translation of the last line. Agam Dhanvanti Kartshena Nidham Bhaskara.
This process is accepted only by someone who is very fortunate. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said, Brahmanda Parmite Kono Bhaktiman Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Veej. The grace of Krishna and the spiritual master, fortunate person, after wandering throughout the universe in different speed of life, receives the seed of pure devotional service. Krishna consciousness is meant. Krishna consciousness is meant for the very fortunate. For simply by accepting this one process, a person can surpass all the duties of austerity, renunciation, celibacy, etc. Sukdev Goswami declares, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. One who is extremely fortunate takes to the process of pure devotional service. Kevala Bhakti refers to pure, unalloyed devotional service in which there is no desire but to please Krishna. One should not render devotional service just to increase his income. We want money to become happy, but if we take to Krishna consciousness, automatically we will become so happy that we will neglect money. Money will automatically come. Happiness will come. There is no need to endeavor for these things separately. It was Dhruva Maharaj who lamented, how foolish I was that I took to devotional service with a desire for material profit. Ordinarily, for material profit, one goes to his boss or some rich man or demigod. But a devotee does not go anywhere but to Krishna, even if he has material desires. If one goes to Krishna even for material advantages, the day will come when he forgets material desires, just like Dhruva Maharaj. He was repentant and said, I came to Krishna and asked for something material, just like one who has pleased a very rich man and who asks him for a few grains of rice. If a rich man agrees to give us whatever we want, but we ask him only for a few grains of rice, is that very intelligent? Asking Krishna for material benefit is exactly like this. One need not ask Krishna extraneously for material happiness. For material happiness will automatically roll before his very feet, pleading, please take me, please take me. Those who are practicing Krishna consciousness are not in need of the material opulences, wives, children, happiness, home, for all is acquired automatically by the grace of Krishna. There is no need to ask Krishna for these material things, but one should simply request him, please engage me in your service. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also promises that if one engages in his service, he will supply what is needed and preserve whatever is already possessed. One of his final instructions to Arjuna indicates total dependence on him. Chetasa sarvakarvani mayi sannyasa matparha buddhi yogam upasritya achitta satatam bhava. In all activities and for the results, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me.
So here the same thing like Bhakti Vinay could tell. And I have described all those things that Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan feature of mind. I've described those who are meditating on those. I've described the karma yoga, jnana yoga, all those things. So offer all the results, karma to me and all those. And in taking this buddhi yoga, you see that this Bhagavan form is the highest. And then he performs service to that form. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining in this way. This was.
Chapter 5. Concerning designation and problems, Krishna consciousness is easily achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, but only some are fortunate enough to have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and his disciplic succession. According to Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Sati Siddhaye Yutam Siddhana Kashin Mam Vedki Tattvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
So what does it mean? Even those who have achieved perfection, it was given in it came from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also. Even those who have achieved Vaikuntha also, Siddha, they also do not know Krishna in complete truth. That's how, because they have this desire of having their own bliss. So they do not know. Very similar Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells, there are uncountable jivas. In the uncountable jivas, there are very few who takes birth as human. In those, there are very few who endeavors for perfection. In those, there are very few who attains perfection. Perfections means either Brahma realization or even the Bhagavan realization also. Both kind of person. In them, there are very few who knows him in truth. Even attaining Bhagavan realization, they attain the personal liberation. But in complete truth, there are very few who knows the Lord in that way, that he can be properly served when one does not want any kind of for his happiness or something like that. There are very few. Even in the spiritual world also, there are very few who just wants to serve the Lord. That is actually knowing Bhagavan in truth, complete truth.
God realization is not possible for anyone or for person or almost anyone.
So this is question number, paragraph. Why is God realization not possible? So this paragraph is answering that question.
Contemporary civilization is a large and assembly of animal thought, as stated before, which operates on the basis of the animal's propensity. The bird and beast arise early in the morning and busy themselves find some food and flesh and trying to defend themselves. At night they look for shelter, and in the morning they fly to a tree to find nuts and fruits. Similarly, in New York City, great hordes of people travel from one island to another by ferry boats or with or subways in order to go to the office for the purpose of finding food. How is this an advancement of our animal life? Although the ferry and subway are always crowded, and many people have to travel 40 or 50 miles for bread, the birds are free to fly from one tree to another.
So the question is that why is God realization not possible for animals in the same way? They are doing the same activities that animals are doing. For birds also flying from during the winter season, the birds come from Siberia to India for their existence, for their survival and the food. Similarly, Prabhupada is giving example. Not just here, everywhere. People are from somewhere else, they go to somewhere else, they also fly to earn money for the food and survival. They are actually in the shape of animal. They are the shape of men, but they are actually the animal. So how can they understand the God realization? For that one has to know about who is one. Is there means why we are suffering. Prabhupada generally gives these kinds of examples. One should question for them. If they are not, they cannot realize God.
When we learn about the relationship with God by any problem, Chinese, the Quran, in any case, it must be learned. Purpose of the consciousness movement is not to make Christians into Hindus or Hindus into Christians, but to inform everyone that the duty of a human being is to understand his relationship with God. One must learn this, otherwise he is simply wasting his time by engaging in animalistic propensities. We must all try to love Krishna or God. One has a process, he should practice it, or he can come and learn this process. One should not begrudge the selection of one process over other. Vishadapyamritam grahyam amedyatapi kanchanam. Nishadapi uttamam vidyam striratnam dushkuladapi. Niti Darpan 1.60. Chanakya Pandit says that one must catch what is right from any source. If there is a glass of poison with some nectar in it, he says one should take out the nectar and leave the poison. In the same way, if one finds gold in a filthy place, he should take it. Similarly, although according to the Vedic system of education, one must be given instruction by intellectual persons like Brahmanas. If someone lower on the social scale has learned the truth, one should accept him as teacher and learn from him. One should not think that just because one is lowly born, he should not be accepted as a teacher. Thirdly, if one is serious about understanding God, he should not think, I'm Christian, I'm Hindu, or I'm a Muslim. If one is serious about understanding love of God, he should consider which process is practical. One should not think, why should I follow Hindu or Vedic scriptures?
The Prabhupada here is hinting which process is practical. Actually, Krishna consciousness is the only proper practical way. Though they are the so-called Hindu, so-called Muslim, or so-called Christianity, but he is hinting here, they will just love of God. There also it is talked about love of God, but there is not given any process how the love of God is reciprocated, how Lord loves the person. Generally, if you see there is scriptures, even in the Hindu scriptures also, generally the Puranas or Vedas, if you don't do this, you will be punished for that. If you don't do this, you will be punished for that. If you don't do this, you will be punished for that. So how one will know that they do, even the Hindus also, they are God-fearing people. They're not actually the God-loving people. They do bhakti and all those things, love the God. No. That is why he is hinting here. Which process is practical? In Krishna consciousness, why one should worship Krishna? Why? It becomes very easier to understand that God is actually a loving person, and we should also be in that mood and just going for something or out of fear one should worship. If we will see the Christian scriptures, Muslim scriptures, they are like just frightened, scared only. If you will not do this, you will be punished like that. If you will not do this, you will be punished like that. How one can love in that condition? Just out of fear, they are like very strict, but just out of fear. Yes.
One should not think, why should I follow Hindu or Vedic scripture? The purpose of following the Vedic scripture is to develop love of God. When students come to America for higher education, they do not consider the fact that teachers may be American, German, or other nationalists. If one wants to a higher education, he simply comes and takes it. Similarly, if there is an effective process for understanding and approaching God, like this Krishna consciousness process, one should take it. Not all, but those who are intelligent and fortunate take to this process of devotional service, Kevalaya Bhaktya, and their only desire is to serve Krishna. From early morning till late night, the devotees are engaged in Krishna's service. This is called Kevalaya, pure. For them, there is no other business. This process is recommended for all, and it is the perfection of all religious processes. In Sanskrit, there are two words, para and apara, which describes the superior, transcendental, and inferior material approaches to religion. In the execution of material dharma, or religious perform for material gain, people generally go to a church or a temple and pray, God give us our daily bread. Actually, this need not be asked for, or for bread is already provided for everyone. Even the birds and beasts get their bread without having to go to church to ask God for it. Similarly, our bread is also provided whether we go to church or not. That is not a problem for one who is dying in the streets of starvation, nor do we find a bird, beast, or even an ant dying of starvation.
The Prabhupada here will give Prabhupada here, no one is actually dying in streets of starvation. Actually, nobody is dying. But when we see that many persons died because of the starvation, this is because this problem has been created by the men themselves. There comes that once there was a lot of the American government, there was a lot of wheat production happened in America, and wheat price went very low, and then they were not getting taxes and all those things. Then they told, we will do one thing, we should throw all the wheat into the ocean, and then there will be less wheat, then the price will go high, and then we should make like this the inflation, and then we will get the taxes. And they actually threw many tons of wheats into the ocean. So it is problem created by the so-called government, so-called industrialists. By them, these are one of this, the grandfather of Amrish Prabhu, Ford. Which Ford? Henry Ford. Henry Ford. He told one thing, that the people, general people will know that how the industrialist and government works together. They will go and revolt. From that day onwards, they will not listen to any government or any nation. They will just go and revolt. They will actually fire in all the factories, in all the government offices, everything. The day they will know. So these are the things. These are the problems created by men themselves. If the people will not create these problems, nobody will go starving. The American government threw so many tons of wheat. If you would have distributed it to the countries which are poor and all those things, that will be, many lives will be saved. But not because they are not getting good price and all those things. They threw so many wheats in the ocean.
Food is there and one need not bother about it. If brain should be taxed, it should be taxed for Krishna or God. There is the proper, that this is the proper utilization of time. There is no scarcity of bread in the kingdom of God. Tasyaiva hetu preteta kovida na labhyate yat brahmatmam upare adhi. Srimad Bhagavatam says that one should try to attain that which cannot be attained by traveling all over the universe. What is that? Kevalaya bhaktya, pure devotion. By God's arrangement, there is sufficient food, land, and prospect for food on this planet. But we have arranged things in such a way that in one part of the world, people are suffering, in another part, they are throwing grains in the ocean.
Prabhupada is talking about that only. So it happened actually in 1965, probably. Yeah, 1960s only these things happened. And still, government are trying to that like that only. That if they get much, the price goes down, just throw it to hike the price and all those things. Nowadays, only 6 billion people in this earth, or 6.5 billion. During Dwapar Yuga, just in Dwarka only, so many people were there. If you read Krishna book, lakhs of teachers were for teaching Krishna's sons. How many people will be there during that time? Nobody was starving. Earth has much, how to say that it can produce much, far more greater than how many people are staying here. But these problems are created by many themselves. And this is one of the questions also, CBA, question 43. There is sufficient food provided to God, then why is there suffering due to the shortage? They are not following the first verse of the Ishopanishad.
The Vedas says, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. The Supreme Person is supplying food to many living entities. The difficulty in this material world is that we take more than we need and thus create our own problems. Problems are created by men, led by the so-called politicians. According to nature's way or God's way, everything is complete. According to Shri Ishopanishad, Om Purnam Ada Purnamada Purnat Purnasya Udachati Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avshishate. The personality of God is perfect and complete, and because of this, all emanations from Him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete whole. And whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because He is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance. God is complete.
So, because this world also has been created by God Himself. So because He is complete, it is sure that He has made it like in complete and perfect way. There is no scarcity, nothing of Him, no scarcity of anything. This has been created. Okay. You just read this paragraph, then we stop. There should be some pages for the next class also, otherwise. Okay.
His creation is complete and his arrangements are complete, but we are creating disturbances. Real education is that which makes people Krishna conscious, so that they will properly utilize resources of the earth and stop creating disturbances. It is not possible to solve problem by passing resolution in the United Nations. One must know the actual method of solving problems.
Okay, we'll start in next paragraph, next class. Manchakal Privashchak Pasni